For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dlamini. Bhekisisa Mncube discusses his memoir titled The Love Diary of a Zulu Boy. Why do you think your story matters, and why are you calling yourself a part-time darkie?
Well, let's put it this way. My story matters, and on the other hand, it really doesn't, because it's not a novelty anymore for black people to be married to white people, or white people to marry black people. But I just thought I should document my experiences for the benefit of my children, and of course to honor the love that I've received from my wife. The complications of being in an interracial relationship are such that you think you have lost your identity. I'm not sure anymore. You see, when I want to do a cultural ceremony, I must take my car, get into it, and drive 600 kilometers to go to my ancestral home, because of the complication that my wife is averse to animal killing. She does not believe in ancestors. So that's what prompts me to, I mean, it's of course a joke, I mean, to say, perhaps I am a part-time darkie. You know, I'm not a fully fledged darkie as all others, like yourself.
So you grew up in KZN, now you're married to an Englishwoman. This must have come as a surprise to your family as well as your friends. Can you briefly tell us how you met her, and why are you referring to her as Professor D?
We are not going to know my wife. We are not going to know her for one reason only. The book itself, The Love Diary of a Zulu Boy, talks about her, half the book. But half the book are my memoirs of love affairs that happened before her. So because of that, we decided that it would be inappropriate to actually put her out in the public to talk about this story. And also it doesn't help that in the story, it begins with my life in the village and the stories with my father. So it's broader than just a love affair between a Zulu boy and an Englishwoman.
Can you tell us the challenges that you had to deal with while dating her, and the first day when you met her parents? You had to practice how to order a wine.
I was told that we had been invited for dinner. And yeah, so I asked her, what's the story about your parents? She said to me, oh, my parents are just my parents. It wasn't helpful because I needed to prepare myself, and I had to learn things like wine, things about maids. You know, I didn't know restaurant language. You know, it was all new to me. So I prepared myself, and off we went to meet the parents. We sat down, and yeah, we started engaging, and of course, then they asked me, what are you going to drink? I was like, this question is coming back it wasn't the first time. Every time I've been out with my girlfriend to meet her friends, the assumption was that I knew something about wine, which I didn't. So, but I had tried to get information from my girlfriend about this wine business, and she said, just say dry white. So I told them, oh, dry white if everyone is having, because the whole idea is if you bring a bottle of wine, it can't just be for you only, you know. Wine is a funny thing. It's not. I don't think it's for darkies. No. I mean, what is this thing? You can't have a bottle of wine to yourself. But anyway, so fortunately they were amenable to my idea. So we all shared the bottle of wine, and we had food. We spoke, and after the dinner, I was quite satisfied that they had accepted me. At the very least, as I say in the book, they had accepted what they could not change. But over the years, I have come to realize that it was not just being accepted. I am part of the family.
For the benefit of the viewers who might not know your upbringing, can you briefly share where you come from?
I was born in KwaZulu-Natal, in a small town called Eshowe, in the village known as Habeni, a place of hyperbole. In the early 70s, I grew up in the rural area. We didn't have running water. We got our water for drinking from the rivers, streams, and dams, competing with livestock. There were no tarred roads. There were no toilets. So, but we survived. You know, people complain now, they talk about day zero in Cape Town.
Yeah.
I lived on day zero for 18 years. For 18 years. I'm a typical rural boy, grew up herding cattle, you know, tilling the land, you know, doing all the things that young people do. But life was extremely tough. We were the poorest of the poor in the village.
The book addresses the sad part about your not so good relationship with your father. Your psychologist told you to figuratively kill him in order to move on with your life. Tell us how you did the ritual and what are you doing to make sure that you are closer to your son?
Well, people keep saying to me, my father wasn't bad. He was a product of his time. Maybe he was merely reenacting a life he had had with his own father. I can't say I buy or don't buy that story. The reality of the situation is, how did I feel when I was growing up? I never experienced a father-son relationship with my father. He was a bully. He abused my family, my siblings, my mother, physically, verbally. Every time Dad was coming home, there was a sense of fear. It didn't help that when I turned 7, I had to go to school. My father said no. I was too young. This is a man who never went to school. This is a man who is completely illiterate. There was no way he could know that I was ready or not ready for school. So I raised the matter with my mother. She said to me, I've tried, my son, but your father says no, you are still too young. Maybe you should speak to him. Waited for him, came in the morning after his night shift, and I said to him, Dad, I'm going to school tomorrow. I said, yes, and don't worry about the school fees, Mom will sort me out. And don't worry about the uniform, you can sort that out later. And off I left. He said to me, I hear you. You never uttered the words, you can do it. So the next morning, my mom prepared me for school, and off I went to school. My father comes back from work and asks, where is Bhekisisa? And my mom says, oh, Bhekisisa went to school. My father lost it. He was so angry, such that he went to report my mother to his elder brother, which is a serious matter, which resulted in my mother appearing before a disciplinary committee, charged with bringing family name, disrespect, and, you know, but yeah, so I put my mother through a lot of trouble to get to school. Not that I was aware of what was happening, but a sense of normality returned to the household. But, you know, to me, it was always, I fear this guy. You know, we didn't know when will be the next outburst. It was a question of, okay, this hour is good. We don't know the next hour. And fast forward to 1993. Now I've passed matric, and I had a scholarship, a bursary, to go and do post-matric. So routinely, I went to my father and said, I'm going to Durban. I'm going to study further. I've got a bursary. I just need money for transport. My father told me, no, it's not going to happen. You are going to join the Zulu police. I was like, what? I'm not going to do that. He said, fine. See for yourself what you can do. I'm not interested. And he walked out of his own house.
And tell us about the psychologist.
Well, and then years later, 2006, I had really forgotten about these two incidents. The one that happened when I was 7 and the one that happened in 1993. Life was going on. I had done some terrible things in my life. I had done some great things in my life. I started working around 2001. And yeah, the same year my brother, elder brother, passed on. 2006, I suffered a mental breakdown. I drove myself to the emergency rooms. And my physician, Dr. Parak, said to me, "What has recently happened in your family? Have you lost a loved one or something?" I said, "Yeah, a few years back, my brother was stabbed 47 times by criminals." Yeah, and I said, "Okay, I know what I'm going to do for you." I said, "Okay, that's good." And then he booked me at a psychiatric ward at Indabeni Hospital. A young Indian woman walks in, and she comes into the room where we are. Says, "Hi, I'm looking for Walter." I say, "Yeah, I'm Walter." So I go see her. Says, "I'm your psychologist." So we went into the consulting cubicle. I sat down, and the first question she asked me is, "Tell us about your father." That question destroyed me. I have never cried in the presence of another person like that in my life. Up to that point, I had no idea the impact that my father had had on my upbringing. The next question, of course, was about my brother. Even that, I didn't know that I had not healed from the death of my brother, whom I was very close. The one was a champion for education in my household. He was an A student. At the time he was stabbed by criminals. He was doing his master's. So he was my role model. He was my brother, he was my friend. You know, we spoke about how we're going to take the whole family out of poverty. We talked about the kind of families we were going to have. You know, and suddenly he was gone. So then when the psychologist raised these two things, it became clear that that was where my problems were. And then she started doing the work to treat me. That's when really the idea that my father was beyond redemption, that's what I said to her. After she had asked me to write a letter to my father, which I did. And she read it and said, "Go home and read this letter to your father. Let him know how you feel." I said, "I can't. My father is beyond redemption." She said to me, "Okay, cool. Let's just kill your dad." Like, what? I said, don't worry. For you to heal and to move on, we're going to do two things. Trauma counseling for your brother, and we're going to kill your dad. Because if you don't do this, and your dad dies while you harbor so much hatred and anger against him, you are going to hold on to that anger for the rest of your life. It will affect your relationship with your kids and relationship with yourself and the people around you. So we went the whole way. I was told that I had to take the letter after being released from hospital, go home, dig a grave, burn it, put the soil on top, do the burial rites, and walk away without looking back. And I did that. And since then, my dad exists. He is not alive. I took away his ability to hurt me. That's what happened.
Mm. You were also sexually molested by your brother, and you didn't tell your family. How are they finding it now that you've written about it in this book?
I'm waiting for the hurricane. Only my wife and my younger sister that I have told them about the story. So I'm waiting for the feudal peace in the family to blow up, and there's nothing I can do about it. I don't have a relationship with my brother anymore. Over the years, it's just been one disaster after the other. He doesn't deserve to have a relationship with me, and I think we should just keep it that way, because really, I was very young. As I say in the book, I'd just been removed from the communal hut where I was living with my mother. The bottom line is, my family is going to know very soon, and there's going to be repercussions, and I'm not doing well emotionally since I published this book, because I have to retell the story of my father over and over again. It was heavy when I was writing, but it was also therapeutic. So I would write and finish and feel better after I had written. But now that I'm telling my story to complete strangers, and it's very tough. It's very tough.
Through this book, you also apologize to different women you have met while navigating through love. The story of Thule touched me. What lesson were you trying to put across to the readers as well as your family?
Well, you see, in all my love affairs, there was actually no love in those love affairs. It was a question of how many can you have? But, you know, Thule changed all that. I loved that woman, such that I thought I should actually try to create a distance between me and her, because I wanted to marry her and run away with her. And the last time I saw her, it was that December, and I didn't phone her in January, because I was trying to keep this distance to see if can I live on my own and still love this woman, or I just want to be with her all the time. So in February of that year, on February the 14th, I bought roses. I was preparing a nice surprise for her, went to a saloon, and I see her friends. They're like, not happy. I thought, is it me? Is it because I've treated their friends so badly? And then there was suddenly pandemonium. They were saying, who's the eldest among us? And then suddenly they agreed that one girl had to speak to me. And she wasted no time. She said to me, Peg, Thule is dead. She was buried last month. I was shocked. I had never even imagined, you know. And there was nothing else for them to say. But yeah, so I wanted to show that in the moment of madness and collecting girlfriends, one stumbled upon beautiful love affairs, which, if handled right, they could be treasured for the rest of one's life. But I didn't. So this is also about my children, you know, to see the things from my point of view. You know, every generation is a product of the time. It's even worse now that there's explosion of HIV and AIDS. So nobody should copy anything in this book. Like I refused, after some time in my life, to copy my father. So I want us to continue breaking the cycle of disrespecting women, of multiple love affairs, of ill-treating our wives, of, you know, not showing care for the people we love when we find love.
Zulu culture involves slaughtering animals and talking to ancestors. Tell us how your family reacted when you told them that you were going to marry your wife in Mauritius without doing the rituals.
I've married my wife 4 times. What more do you want? You want another wedding so that I can invite you? No. There won't be another wedding. Well, we got married in Mauritius some years back, 10 years ago. We came back, we had another small ceremony in Durban. And then I went home to report that this is what has happened. My parents were like, good, but you're not married. We need to do the cultural part of the wedding, the Zulu wedding. So I asked them, just run through the processes that are involved in this wedding. So they explained, and I told them it's not going to happen. There is just so much killing. And there is just so many ceremonies wherein you have to buy gifts and then send gifts, and then the gifts from this side come this side, and it just won't work. But my father relented after 9 years and introduced my family to the ancestors. By all indications, we're still alive. No one is sick in the family with an ailment that can't be explained by medical science. So we are hoping against hope that my ancestors are part of this.
You actually made your gardener Thabo popular via Facebook when you wrote about the things that your wife kept on saying about him. Can you briefly tell us about him?
You see, Thabo came, we had tried to find gardeners for quite some time. We struggled until we found Thabo, and we started working. Normal, I paid no attention. I don't even think I had spoken to him. My wife handles that part of employing staff. And then she started saying, oh yeah, come, let's go and inspect the garden. Thabo is doing a good job. Okay, sure. And then, the next day, if I come home early, come. If Thabo was here, come. Okay, I'll go. Into. You see this? I planted this. I told him to plant this. I told him to do this. Thabo was doing a good job. I was like, am I going to hear the end of this? So I started writing short paragraphs about Thabo and how Thabo was stealing my thunder and how Thabo was always on my wife's lips. And, you know, for some very odd reasons, the people on Facebook just love the story of Thabo. So I decided to start experimenting with longer pieces about the story, you know. And just Thabo became a legend. My wife went to Durban, and then she was asked about Thabo. Friends from Eastern Cape came, they were asked about Thabo. Our friends in England, they were on the story of Thabo. Our friends in Australia, they were asking about Thabo. And then as this whole thing is happening, to me it's just a joke. And then the deputy editor of the Witness newspaper in Pietermaritzburg says, hey, I think Thabo's story will make a beautiful column. I was like, sure, give you one. And that's when I sat down and actually wrote the Thabo story. Thabo and the Garden of Eden.
And there is a funny story when your father spoke English for the first time when you introduced your wife to your family. Can you briefly share that moment?
My dad is a funny one. So off we go to Ulundi. My family moved to Ulundi from Eshowe in 1997. So off we go there from Durban to introduce my new girlfriend. And when we were just about to get into the family house, somehow we don't move, because we can see my father is eager to do something. And then we remembered that all those years, my father told us he spoke better English than all of us, educated kids. I thought, well, let's give him a chance. Let him show us what he's made of. My father didn't disappoint. So we waited. We always knew we were going to laugh. We just didn't know what is going to trigger it, you know. And then my father went, "Wena tanda like I." We're like, what English is that? Wena tanda like I, which could be translated to mean, you love somebody in this household. Hey, we laughed. We just lost it. We laughed. And then same day, in the afternoon, he's sitting under the tree in the yard, and he calls me. So I go there. I find a group of men sitting, enjoying umqombothi, Zulu beer. And so I kneel down to show respect to the men and my father. And my father reports to these men, "Hey, Nina, you guys don't know my son. This is my son. You know this son of mine?" "Yes." "He's going to marry a white woman. And that white woman is not painted. It's the original white." There was so much pride and joy in his voice. You know, for him, this was the best thing I've ever done. Yeah. My father never pitched for my first graduation. He never pitched for my second graduation. No. When I bought a car for the first time, he never said anything. When I bought my first house, he didn't say anything. He never came to visit me. It was so, which was fine by me because he was no longer part of my life. And it was a proof why I had to cut him off my life. So I wasn't feeling bad. And suddenly, he is telling people, and there's pride in his voice, you know, I was like, okay, this is what whiteness does to people.
And lastly, what else will the readers get from this book? And how did you feel when people like Dumisani Zondi as well as Fred Khumalo spoke highly about your memoir?
Thanks for bringing up the name Fred Khumalo. Because Fred Khumalo is the godfather of this book. It so happened that when I moved to Pretoria 4 years ago, one of the things I thought were going to be possible was for me to meet Fred Khumalo, because he is my, in terms of the writing talents in this country, he is my absolute hero. So every time Fred Khumalo was launching a book, I was there. Until he noticed that there was Bhekisisa Mncube. We became friends on Facebook. So the more I was writing on Facebook, memo type writing, at some stage, Fred said, "You're wasting our time. Write a book." It's like, write a book? What book? What is he talking about? What book am I? I'm not writing a book here. I'm just merely enjoying myself, you know. After a while, I took up his offer. I wrote to him and said, "Give me your email." I was already halfway the book at the time. And then he gave me the name of the publishers. I wrote to the publishers. I got a publishing deal. Fred has been generous with his time. Has been generous with his skills and knowledge. He supported this project until the end. And he even wrote me this beautiful shout-out at the end of the book. So I would love to really thank him. I will do for young writers what he did for me. It's the only way to thank him.
That was Zulu Boy Bhekisisa Mncube speaking to Crema Media's Polity about his memoir titled The Love Diary of a Zulu Boy.